Well, hello and good afternoon. Um, I've got a question for you guys. Do any of you feel that the world that we're living in now just doesn't make sense? I know that can sound like somebody who's getting older and who just isn't liking change, but I don't mean that. I certainly mean that the world is becoming unrecognisable to the world that I knew when I was younger. That may be because my perceptions and my understandings have grown. The longer you are here, the more you see, and the more you see, the more you begin to understand. You understand a person's behaviour more and more the more you know them, the more you see of them, the more you deal with them. And I guess that's true of our world. So maybe it's simply that I've been around long enough to see for long enough. But if I remember back to when I was a young teenager, and I lived in a small town. It was a city. It had a cathedral. It was small. It had cobbled streets. It had small shops, privately owned, little antique shops. But it was a practical town, a market city. And there was a baker in there. The family had been bakers for generations, and they baked all the bread and biscuits and cakes and sweets for the city. That's what they did. The guy who owned that bakery, the son now, the father had it before him, his father before him, he was well respected because they performed a real function for that city. They made the bread. It didn't have to be made somewhere else in the United Kingdom or even in a foreign country, a European country, and then shipped here. They made it there on site in that city. Now that guy, he, as I say, was very well respected. He was a wealthy man in the terms of those days. They had a nice house. Now, it wasn't a big house. It was a lovely house with a garden. By today's standards, it would have been a small house. But it was comfortable and it was lovely, surrounded by trees. He had a car. Now, that was it. He had a car. His wife didn't have a car. She used his car. And his children. Well, okay, they were my age, but as time went on, there was no expectation in them that they would simply have a car. They had a caravan, and they went on holiday with a caravan. I think it was 2 weeks each year. They didn't fly to exotic countries. He didn't want a private jet or a private helicopter. He didn't want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars, a private yacht. He didn't want a home in a foreign country or several homes in different foreign countries. But he owned a business which was crucial to that city, which provided all that city with its bread and its cakes and its sweets and its biscuits. So he was a significant character in that city, performing a significantly important function. But his expectations were not like the expectations of a business owner today. And I presume the people who worked for him, their expectations were different to the expectations of people today. But he wasn't unhappy. He didn't push and strive to make more money so he could buy more things for himself. He was happy because he was respected. On a Sunday, we would all go as a family and we would walk about the town. We would walk into the town and walk about because it was a lovely town with a lovely cathedral. In those long summer days, you go for walks. Sometimes I would go for walks on my own. down leafy streets, cobbled streets, old Georgian buildings, looking in the windows of the antique shops. And I'd be thinking about the people who owned them because I knew them. It was a leisure activity, going out for the walk. Evening sunshine in the summer, beautiful. The expectations were different for me as a youngster. But expectations now, well, and the achievement of those expectations, do they even bring happiness? You see, this is why I say the world doesn't really make sense. We have more and more labour-saving devices. We have less and less time. I remember when one person, one member of the family could go out to work, and that one person could earn enough money for the family to live comfortably. Not anymore. Now both have to go out and work. In some cases, both are out working, and one or both is working 2 jobs. Now, I know that's the same in the US. It's here, in the United Kingdom. Never thought we'd see it here. I mean, okay. Now, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, and I know this is a stereotype. I could understand why people in the US would be having 2 jobs each and more. You guys were striving for achieving more. But the way I see it, again, I could be wrong, you guys tell me. The US has changed. It seems like you have a crisis going on there. A crisis within families. A crisis within your society. Drug abuse. Decaying infrastructure. Failing services. We have it here. And it just doesn't make sense. Why has it changed when things are supposed to be getting better? Maybe there was a time when politicians have always been corrupt. It's the nature, isn't it, of the species. They make money out of the office that they have. And I'm not going to say too much about that really because, well, temptation is there, or the objective is there, and that's why they pursue that office. But still, there seemed to be at least the pretense of balance, of fairness, of reasonable behaviour. Don't get me wrong. There was very unreasonable and unacceptable criminal behaviour amongst politicians and people of significant social standing. That's always gone on. I suppose without the internet, then we're not as able to find out. But they were found out, and it was known. And maybe people started getting upset about it. So maybe they started offering us more trinkets, a little bit easier travel, a little bit more money, a few more goodies that we can afford, motor cars for the common working man, maybe a house of your own rather than rented or from the state, a house that you buy for yourself as an asset that you can pass on to your children, or maybe you can improve and you can sell and buy a better one. The American dream comes to the United Kingdom. They offer you this, and it stops you taking them to task. Because you think, oh, well, come on, I'm going to set myself up first. Make sure my family is okay first. Then, maybe, we'll rise up and say, enough corruption, enough lies. there was a sense of community. There was a sense of neighbourliness. There was a sense of order. A policeman, if you were a young teenager and you were doing something you shouldn't, he'd catch hold of you. He'd smack you round the head and say, if I catch you doing that again, your father will find out. Well, maybe you did do it again, but you tried not to get caught by him. Oh, they went round on bicycles. Or they went round in very small cars. Now, they're on high-powered motorcycles in supercharged cars. They've been given trinkets. A policeman's job in the past, well, who wanted to be out on a bicycle in the rain in the winter? But a policeman now, you can have the top-of-the-range cars you could never dream of owning yourself. There they are. They give us things to make us compliant. So why doesn't the world make sense to me? I don't know, maybe you guys can tell me. What is this feeling that I have about this world not being my world anymore? I feel out of place here. I can't speak to the young about this. They think I'm a conspiracy theorist. They think I'm old and just remembering the good old days, which of course they know were not good. But you see, it's not as simple as that, is it? That isn't how it is. We were out all summer playing in the fields, climbing trees, falling out of trees, swimming in rivers, running around and stealing apples out of somebody's orchard. All day we were away, and we could be. And it makes us different to the young now. I am not saying the young are not good people. Of course they are. But they haven't had the experiences and the freedoms that we had, even though they would think they have more freedoms. During the last few years, when that madness overtook us, one of the ways in which they persuaded people to comply was by saying, if you comply, you'll be able to travel, you'll be able to go on holiday. And going on holiday to take Instagram photographs, to tell people, to show people what they have done, where they have been, and to show them in a snapshot of the wonderful fun they were having. For the benefit of doing that, they took a chance, they took a gamble. But the government made them comply. Now, maybe they didn't take a chance, maybe they didn't see it as a chance, or they didn't see it as a gamble. What they did see was that perhaps, well, I'm not bothered about taking it, they'll say. I'm a young person, I'm not going to have a problem. But I can't travel. So if I take this thing, I can travel, so I'll take it. Easy compliance. Being able to travel the world and take Instagram photographs and put Facebook posts up is not freedom. Being able to vote for a political party is not the definition of democracy. Being able to speak what you feel is true. Being able to say, I make my own decisions, and as long as I'm not causing harm, then I'm allowed to. Those are freedoms. Those are the things that should exist in democratic societies. In democratic societies, when the people say, we have a big question to you, government, about your actions, and that government can be held to task, brought to task, over these things, whichever way it turns out, that's democracy. That seems to be ebbing away. as do true freedoms, being replaced by the illusion, the fiction of freedom. Now we can travel as long as we have the right documentation. We can travel as long as we have maybe something on our phones now. As long as we fulfill certain criteria, we can travel. Well, in the days of the Soviet Union, they could travel as long as they would fulfill the correct criteria. Now, I know this because I travelled in those places, so I understand what the rules were. So, enough. I am talking enough. You guys tell me in the comments, do you have any of these same feelings? I guess some of you will, and some of you may not agree, and may have a better explanation. I mean, please comment, please say. Let's talk about it. And in the meantime, I have work to do here. I just stopped briefly in between. So I shall get back to my work, and thank you very much for listening. I enjoy telling these little stories and having these little conversations. Please join in. Thank you very much, and I shall speak to you all later. Bye-bye for now.